lot of heat for not showing up until that fourth quarter. Stephen A., so who's the most important player for this Clippers-Jazz series?
Same person that was the most important player of the first game, Donovan Mitchell. I told y'all he's a superstar. I told you he was going to show up in game one and show that he was a superstar. Playing opposite Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, because that's the last thing left to cement how special this dude Donovan Mitchell is. He is a special, special brother. And the fact that Dwayne Wade is sitting courtside and during games, he's talking to Dwayne Wade because Dwayne Wade might see something he hasn't seen. Let's keep in mind that we're talking about a guy in Dwayne Wade that's one of the top 5 off guards in the history of basketball since Naismith invented the game. Top 5 off guard. That's how special Dwayne Wade is. That's the guy that's sitting courtside as a part owner that you are walking over and talking to while the game is going on, in terms of little nuggets here and there, what he's seeing compared to what you're seeing. That's a beautiful position for Donovan Mitchell to be in. But then when you combine that with the fact there's a jump shot, there's a game where you can drive to the basket, there's a mid-range game, there's an NBA body with strength. He can get to the hole. You can't push him around. Then you take into account the heart that he brings to the table. You're talking about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George going up against a challenge that's even a bit different than Luka Doncic, because with Luka Doncic, you didn't have help. Donovan Mitchell's got help, not just offensively, he's got help defensively. And when you think about all of that and the freedom that he has because of it to bring what he brings to the table, the Clippers are not winning this series unless they stop that man. If they don't stop him, they got no shot. They going home.
Donovan Mitchell, by the way, had 57 and 51 in the same series last year. Like, oh, he's 45. That's nothing. 57 and 51.
But remember what Jamal Murray did, too.
Oh, no question. But, Donovan Mitchell's a dude who steps up. He's normally excellent, and when it matters most, he's an all-time great. But he's not the most important player in this series. We already knew that about him. Of course the Nuggets are going to need that from him. Of course the Jazz are going to need that from him. We saw it in game one, and they still barely won when Gobert got his fingertip on a shot that looked good to me from Monty Morris. Look, the answer is Paul George, Stephen A. You see what Donovan Mitchell did? You see why you're raving about him? It's not because of what he does in the regular season where he's excellent. It's because of what he just did. It's because of what he did last year with the chips on the line. He becomes a superstar. If you think he's already a super duper star, what's Paul George do? Paul George goes from an all-star to something less than that. Even in game one, they had no chance to win when Paul George wasn't scoring at all. He came alive in the fourth quarter, dropped like 13 of his 20 in the fourth quarter. They had a chance. But let me ask you something. Is 20 good for Paul George? I mean, when you think of Paul George, you think 22, 25 points, something like that, just normally, right? Real good defense. Where is his 22, 25 points and real good defense? Stephen A., at least, can he just at least stay himself in the playoffs? This is not a dude who relies on deception or playing against second units or anything like that. He's not Euro-stepping his way to success. He's a tall athlete who can run and jump and defend and shoot. He knows he has the ability that should play up in the playoffs. And if he plays up in the playoffs and is an actual 2 to Kawhi's 1, the Clippers can win. And if he doesn't, they can't win.
This is the nauseating and pathetic part of your arguments. Talking basketball with you sometimes is the most excruciating thing going on.
Losing arguments is never fun.
Well, I'm glad you think I lose. When I lose to you, I'll let you know. It's never happened. From the level of attention that he brought to Kawhi Leonard. Now, let's be clear. Kawhi Leonard was big time in Game 6 and 7 against Dallas. And he showed up. And we all know that Kawhi Leonard is a top 5 player. But it was this man across from us that called him number 1. It was this man that ignored the leadership role that you're supposed to play when you want to be the face of the franchise and you want to hold the franchise hostage and say, excuse me, trade the farm in order to get that guy, Paul George. Listen, trade the farm in order to get that guy, Paul George. He didn't say, or else I'm not coming. He said, or else I'm going to the Lakers, where Anthony Davis and LeBron James were already was. That's why I use the word hostage. Because obviously, if you're the Clippers and you think you got a chance, you can't sit around and do nothing and watch the Lakers get LeBron, AD, and Kawhi Leonard. You never have a chance in that city. So with all of those things being considered, I totally understand that Paul George has to step up. He's got to shoot better than 417. He hit a couple of big shots. He hit a big three, hit a pull-up 19-foot jump shot in a waning moments. I understand that Paul George needs to do more than shoot 417. But Kawhi Leonard had 23, shooting 9 of 19 from the field in the same game that Donovan Mitchell dropped 32 in the second half and finished with 45. I'm sorry, Mr. Load Management. This is a guy, Kawhi Leonard, that averaged, to his credit, 39 minutes a game. The year they won in the playoffs with Toronto, he averaged 39 minutes a game. He doesn't miss playoff games, and he puts in his minutes. But the point is, those numbers, who am I looking to, particularly when the fourth quarter rolls around, to shut down a Donovan Mitchell or to match him tip for tat?
Superstars.
Isn't that Kawhi Leonard?
Even superstars.
Isn't that Kawhi Leonard?
Even superstars have bad games in a series or games that are not up to their standard. We saw it in the first series with Kawhi. He had a couple games where you were sitting here saying, Kawhi, what you going to do? Right. And what did he do in games 6 and 7?
Yeah, but what did you do?
He is a two-time Finals MVP. Not one, two-time, with two different franchises, in two different roles, Finals MVP. So can he have a game that you say, Kawhi, we need more? Yeah. But by and large, Kawhi Leonard shows up. His track record in the playoffs is among the best ever. Paul George is not. Right. Paul George is consistently a lesser version of himself.
Yeah, but your argument is different from mine. You're talking about what Paul George needs to do. I'm saying Paul George can shoot 417, drop 20 points, and if Kawhi does what he's supposed to do, they still win the game.
No,
they still win the game. They still win the game. Let me tell you something right now. This is the time you sit up there and you talk about Kawhi Leonard and what your expectations are of him. But when he was struggling, you wasn't the one calling him out. That was me.
Can I ask?
Hold up. I was the one saying, what you gonna do? You were the one. You were the one still saying he's Kawhi. I'm saying Jamal Murray dropped 40 on you in a Game 7. A series that you lost.
That's the one series ever where Kawhi didn't come through in Game 7.
Donovan Mitchell just dropped 45.
So what you going to do? You're asking Kawhi.
What you going to do? I don't want to hear Paul George. I want to hear Kawhi.
Fair enough, but based on Kawhi's track record, is your suspicion that he's going to do something or not in this series?
Well, it's my suspicion that he might not match Donovan Mitchell. That's my suspicion.
If Paul George,
if you want to use the word suspicion.
Let me be very clear. If Paul George can't at least be his normal self, the Clippers don't have a chance to win. If he can at least be his normal self, the Clippers can get out of the West.
All right, Max is saying it's more about Paul George, Stephen A. Kawhi, and Kawhi can't keep up with Donovan Mitchell at this point. We'll keep it rolling here, guys. When we come back, some NFL to deal with. All NFL prognosticators have the Chiefs and Bucks headed for a rematch